threw us
lawsuit.
all off because, we haven't seen him in like,
Yeah,
a
priorities.
fortnight.
Okay, so you have to drink some water, clear your throat, and get ready your lovely voice for recording.
Okay.
Haven't
Right?
seen you in a month of Subways, Michael.
Eat fresh.
Okay.
I've been busy eating fresh as hell. They can hate on Subway all they want, but quite frankly, Subway's business has gone up since this whole debacle. You can't stop Big Tuna.
How long are you going to be here with us? Are you going to stay for the whole show, or you got to run?
Yeah, I got to run in a minute, but I just want to swing by and say I love y'all, miss y'all,
Love you
play
too.
around a little
Miss
bit with
you
y'all.
too, my
It's been
cadet.
forever, man. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of building. It's been investors. It's crazy when you come into an influx of money and you have to do what they say right away.
Yeah.
Yep.
First news of the day. And happy Monday, October 11th to everybody. Oh, I got to fix the Twitter. Cheryl, hold on 2 seconds. So for those who don't know, Tech News Around the World is, of course, here in Clubhouse. However, we have a second screen experience happening over on Twitter where we tweet out all of the articles that we talk about in real time. And since we met last time, and 24 hours a day, people on stage and in the audience are sharing tweets and you can too, by simply including our Twitter account as part of your tweet, TNATW, and then if then we see them and we pick out the best ones, as we will do in a minute, and retweet them. And on top of that, we have Twitter has a live stream thing that we live stream to, that you can see as the pinned tweet on the top of our Twitter account at TNATW, and you can retweet it. So all your friends who are, the losers who don't join us here in Clubhouse, they can listen from outside the clubhouse because they're sitting out on the curb, because they don't have the hookup to get all up in the clubhouse. So that's how we do, and this is how we go. So the top story is that Nick.
Tyler.
Yes.
I think you did it too fast again and it's not loading.
It's okay. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's all good. So the top story today, Monday, happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Is that Nick Clegg, who's the official spokesperson over there at Facebook, and who was the Deputy Prime Minister of the UK formerly, says that Facebook will put more friends and less politics in the newsfeed. That's number one, because they know, I think they've done surveys to find out what their complaints are about Facebook. And number two, and that will certainly get them out of a lot of hot water about all the accusations of division and all, everybody on Capitol Hill getting all uptight about what Facebook does. And then number two, they're going to nudge teens away from toxic Instagram content. And this is from Deadline.com. So fighting back after the whistleblower's damning testimony earlier this week before the Congressional Committee, Facebook spokesperson Nick Clegg said on NBC's Sunday Meet the Press that changes are coming to the social media outlet and its cousin Instagram. Clegg, the former UK Deputy Prime Minister, who is now Vice President for the Global Affairs and Communications at Facebook, said that the company will reduce the presence of politics on people's feeds after it lifted safety measures. He claimed the move stems from user feedback, seeking more friends, less politics, as people find themselves without any friends after having tweeted out a bunch of dumbass political views. Yeah, well, you shouldn't have done that. And that's why you have no more friends left. And so we're going to help you out there, soldier. You seem to have scared away all your friends. So what we're going to do is next time you do that shit, we're just not going to show them. Sound good? Because, by the way, that's the other flip side of this whole implication. If Facebook says we're going to be showing less political stuff, well, that means your political stuff that you share isn't really going to be shared. That's how that works. You see how that works? So, Uncle Bobby, all them crazy ass political views you have, they're scared away all of your customers and friends and loved ones and family members. We're going to do you a solid, bro, and not share that dumbass shit. so that you can continue to have friends and relatives and loved ones and customers for your business. Sound good? I thought you'd like it. So number
But
2.
but the interesting part here is that it's always been possible to circumvent their blocks for topics like that, like writing in other words and having pictures instead of text, etc. So this will be the same. And the thing is here that how are they going to do with us that have a lot of people that are politicians that actually are real friends? Will they be blocked too? And which is most? Are they more politician or more friend? Johan?
Yeah, that's more of a Swedish thing where everyone knows a parliament member. Or that's not so common in the U.S., honestly. It's kind of rare, actually. But in Sweden, everyone knows somebody who's a politician because it's kind of a smaller pond over there. But, and I don't mean that in a bad way. If anything, in many scenarios, that's a great thing. But the second issue, I think, is more interesting, where they're going to nudge your dumbass cousins who are on a steady binging diet of content that's unhealthy for them. So he says they will institute new guards for younger Instagram users in the face of criticism from the whistleblower charges that the company puts profits ahead of users' well-being. We're going to show you that you're wrong, which I kind of like this. Let's see if this works out. This would be awesome to kind of keep track on this to see if it actually happens. And then again, that means people posting harmful content. We're just not going to show your content, and let's see if that works. Later in the interview,
Are they basically just locking them in echo chambers? Kind of like when they used to you force you to buy basically exposure.
views, yeah.
They'd be like 19 of your friends can see this. For more, you got to pay.
I don't know. It remains to be seen. But and also this means, as Johan says, what if you're sharing an image? Does that mean they know what the image is and there's no text involved in the post or what have you? So Clegg said Instagram will also undergo some changes designed to better address youngsters amid claims that the service is damaging their mental health. Here's the quote. We understand the concerns of some that we need to press pause, listen to experts, explain our intentions, and so on. We're going to introduce new controls for adults of teens. I think he means parents of teens. On an optional basis, obviously, so adults can supervise what their teens are doing online. Okay, how's that? That'll be interesting to see how that works. And if they do release that, right? Facebook introduces new parental controls, right? I think that's the solution. Because then, if anyone ever accuses Facebook of harming teens, Facebook can show loud and clear there are these things called parental controls. We assume that these teens have parents. And if these parents actually gave a shit about their kids, they could stop them right now very simply by flicking the switch to remove harmful content. And if they're consuming harmful content, that is now the parents' fault. Go talk to the parents. Leave us the fuck alone. Let us make billions of dollars. Get the fuck out of our face. You're a dumbass parent. You're creating dumbass kids. That's on you. Leave us out of it. So that's all they have to do is make this parental control. Bada boom, bada bing. Back to business, baby. Where's the cash register? So, yeah, make that thing. Whip that out quick like. It doesn't even matter if it really works or not. You just say, hey, big announcement, everybody. We've got this hot new thing over on Instagram called Parental Controls. It will remove all the negative content that makes your kid feel like that we are hurting them. And we're giving you the tools to remove that stuff. Not that you didn't have power to begin with. Not that you couldn't have been a good parent. And yeah, now this is perfect. Actually, this is brilliant. The question is, how fast will they do it? They can't do it fast enough. If I was Mark Zuckerberg, I would have this done next week. And it would already be done. It honestly isn't that difficult to do, to build this parental control thing. Is Carl on stage? Johan's on stage. anyone?
I was going to chip in on that, Tyler. I mean,
Jinx,
truth be told,
I'm back channeling Carl's too. He's in the audience.
Okay, but I'm telling you,
I'm
as
sure there
somebody who
has to be like an API that exists for something like this, right? Like, it's not even that they would have to build their own.
I'm just saying, as in turn, I can do a little Java. As somebody who has written a few programs, I can tell you to make a filter for parents. The hard part is tapping it into the algorithm to adjust the algorithm, which they already have. It's not that difficult. If they rushed it, they could get it done in a week, which I think they should. If I were Facebook, I would rush this out in a week to do to just stand up, arms in the air in a V, and say, "Hey, everybody, here it is. Parental controls. If you're worried about kids looking at content that might be harmful to them, you see this little switch right here. You just move that little switch with your little stupid parent finger, and boom." We automatically become the parent for you in the app. Now you can go back to binge watching Judge Judy and let us worry about your kids' mental health. Good job, everybody. We did it.
What really should
But Tyler,
happen?
what you're forgetting is that kids don't use Facebook, so that's why it's not a priority.
Facebook is for old people, if you ask my kids.
Right. I'm just saying, to address the blowback that they're getting from Congress and over this Wall Street, all of the heat that they're currently under, here's how you get out of it real fast.
That's an interesting thing to think
So
about, though,
it's
because Facebook is generally typically leans towards anyone who uses Facebook overwhelmingly right now is going to be at an adult age, at least 18 years of age or older for the most part. So it is kind of interesting that all of this is over how it impacts kids, because there aren't really that many of them on Facebook, and
Right.
I'm wondering if they're even aware of those statistics.
They're not.
one of the things here also is that on Apple we have this family group where you can have kids and you can set different things for them, but Facebook never implemented such a thing because they said that we have a minimum age of 13. We don't need parental guidance kits into the platform, so they actually don't have a family account structure that I know of anyway. So you can't be a parent to someone else on Facebook.
Yeah, it's
To my
actually
knowledge,
that's very true. It became a problem with the Oculus and signing up because you have to sign up through Facebook for the Oculus. So anyone who has an Oculus account does have a Facebook account. That's
You
probably the only thing.
bring up a great point. The hard part's going to be having parents for people over 18. How to set that? That's technically going to be the harder part.
yeah, the harder part
Mm,
here is they don't have the structure at all for it.
That's
They
what I
actually
mean.
have shied away for it for years. So
Because
no, sorry, sir, it won't be an easy flex to
Yeah.
5 rows of code. This will
Yes.
take probably a better grip.
You're right.
they,
That is going to be the hard part.
it's the it's why we're just trying to solve the problem everywhere on the internet with identification. Verified identity of the users. This is the end game, right? Like that's what
However,
we need.
on Facebook, a lot of people do put who are their relatives, like their cousins and their aunt and
Yeah,
their
but
uncle
you
and their
can
mom and
always
dad.
create a fake account
Yeah,
like
of
most
course.
kids would if they're
Yeah,
trying to
you
evade
need
their parents.
the really tricky part is how do you um it would be very difficult actually to you not only do you need identity verification, you need relationship verification. That gets crazy tricky.
Yeah, not in Sweden, but we are we.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting headline there. Okay, so the next headline, number 2, these are related. There's one from the New York Times. The New York Times headline reads, "It took decades to bring meaningful government regulation for big tobacco, and experts say it could take an equally long time to regulate big tech." Yes, in fact, it could be even harder for big tech because big tech has tons of money and tons of influence. In fact, they are the biggest campaign contributors to politicians. They have the biggest lobbying dollars of any industry. So yeah, it's going to drag out forever. And when the regulations do come in, it will favor them in very clever ways. The BBC has a related article that says Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen will give evidence to the UK's Parliament Online Safety Bill Committee on October 25th. Hagen, the Facebook whistleblower who accuses the technology giant of putting it up, will give evidence to the UK Parliament later this month. Because they want a repeat performance. We need an encore over here for the UK audience. She's going on tour, everybody. Anyone have a parliament and wants to hear the whistleblower? We can contact her agent and see if she'll make a special appearance. So, next up, leaked marketing material of Pixel 6, which is coming out on BB. What was it? The 19th? It's October 19th. The Pixel 6 is coming out on 10 a.m. Pacific time Tuesday. That's 1 week from tomorrow. We will do the live stream as we do. And the Pixel, what this headline is about, it says the Pixel 6 phones will include a 50 megapixel camera as the primary camera, with a 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 48 megapixel 4x telephoto lens on the Pro, and a magic eraser feature that will kill all the other third-party apps that people pay money for to remove unwanted content from their photos. It'll be built right into the phone app, and that's kind of genius. Although it's going to kill a bunch of those startups. But that always happens with these kinds of events where they introduce their new operating systems and all the new bells and whistles, and every bell and every whistle is a few startups. So it becomes a virtual graveyard. And that's a fun startup game to play. How many startups got slaughtered during this live stream? So the next one is from the Financial Times that the EU's proposed big tech regulations have become bogged down in the European Parliament. What? That's so unlike them. They normally are like China. They're so fast over there in the EU with their regulations. They just go so fast. I mean, I think they're having a meeting this week to decide the schedule for the meetings for next month, to decide the meetings for next year, so that they can make a decision sometime in 2050 about the regulations they're thinking about doing for the 22nd century.
That's my problem with them, is honestly, they make these decisions way too fast.
So, wow, they've become bogged down in the European Parliament and now risk being watered down and heavily delayed. And we're just stunned. We're just shocked. This is real speechless headlines, shaking the world right here, that the EU Parliament is watered down and heavily delayed with big tech regulations. Who could have seen this coming? The next one is from CNBC, that they've done a profile on Ifeoma Ozoma as she launched the Tech Worker Handbook last week, an online guide for tech workplace complaints. And also, she was in 2 headlines last week. So kudos to her, by the way. That's not easy to do, whether you agree with her views or not. She's doing shit, right? She was in 2 separate headlines last week. First, she launched the Tech Worker Handbook to help people become more effective whistleblowers at their tech companies. Number 2, she worked with California Governor Newsom to create a new act, a new California law called the Silence No More Act. And they signed it as a new California law, which essentially allows whistleblowers to whistleblow about stuff even if they've signed a non-disclosure agreement with their company. And previously, you couldn't whistleblow about stuff with one exception. You could whistleblow about sexual harassment, and that went into effect after the Me Too, hashtag Me Too. That was one of the laws that got passed during that era, so that people who had been sexually harassed could whistleblow about it without fear of breaking their non-disclosure agreements that they signed at their workplace. However, what Miss Azoma brilliantly put together is a protection for all the other types of harassment, like racial harassment and all religious harassments. God knows vegans get harassed as it is. So all of that stuff. So if you're subjected to any kind of workplace harassment, you can now whistleblow without fear of breaking your NDA. It's kind of genius, actually, whether you agree with that or not. She's getting shit done. This is a very effective individual here. both of those things are going to open the floodgates of whistleblowers in tech, big tech companies. The combination of those two things, my goodness, holy cow, here it comes. There will be a tsunami of whistleblowers about big tech. Now, they're contacting her, these whistleblowers, because she's written the Tech Worker Handbook. And now she's in a really interesting position of getting all of the whistleblowers from Apple together, all of the whistleblowers from Microsoft together, and Google together, and Pinterest together, and Facebook and Instagram together. And oh boy, oh wow, she could really cause some incredible damage to these companies, and they know it. So this is going to get very interesting. And the journalists, oh boy, are they licking their chops over the whistleblowers that are now reaching out to Mrs. Oma. So it's going
The
to be,
whistleblowers of the world unite is the
yeah,
new theme.
yeah. So, and Ashley, this is just quite comical how Ashley Govic, who was whistleblowing at Apple, has taken to Twitter about this article to remind everybody that 30 days ago she was the Apple employee sitting at home suspended, but because she raised concerns. And then for anyone not aware of how my advocacy around Silicon Valley chemical exposure started, this was my 2020. Then, she's Ashley, Miss Azoma, has become the poster child for whistleblowing, and I think this is driving our friend Ashley a little crazy that Miss Azoma is being profiled by CNBC and is going to become the poster child for the whistleblower movement to come, and rightfully
This is
so.
not going to end well, Tyler.
Huh?
This isn't going to end well. Ashley's going to end up taking down newspapers. She's going to try to take down everything.
She's just quick to remind everyone that she's the one actually blowing the whistle on Apple, and let's not lose focus on who's blowing whistles over here.
Let's not lose focus on the positive feedback from my manager that I took the wrong way and started all of this.
Oh man, that was hilarious. So the next one's from The Atlantic. You'll love this one. Who was it that was making this point just a minute ago? And I was making this point a couple days ago. Here's the headline from The Atlantic. When trying to address problems that social media may cause for young people, lawmakers focus on Facebook and largely ignore TikTok, which most of the teens are using. Yep. Now, the Atlantic is not on a crusade to kill big tech like the Wall Street Journal and certainly like the New York Times. My God, is the New York Times on a roll writing?
Yeah, they've been on a rampage.
They've been out of control, throwing everything they can onto the dumpster fire, screaming, burn, baby, burn, with... you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. We will put them together in a tweet thread if you like. It's at least a dozen articles that they've written in the past week about all of the everything that they're trying to fan the flames on the dumpster fire of the Facebook whistleblower. And yet, in doing so, they've never once mentioned TikTok. And it's almost as if they don't actually give a shit, that the issue for them is not kids being harmed. Because if they were interested in kids being harmed, they would know that TikTok has actually led to several deaths. One in the Benadryl challenge, where kids were competing to see how much Benadryl they can take. You might say that's
that tells you everything you need to know, that they're not even breathing the name TikTok. That tells you right there. They're attacking Facebook, which, as we've already established, there aren't really any kids on Facebook and have nothing to say about TikTok.
Right. But by the way, TikTok is not hurting journalism because TikTok is a bunch of photos and videos. Facebook...
No, Tyler. They're scared of the Chinese more than they're scared of Mark Zuckerberg.
No, it's not that. It's just that they perceive Facebook, and in part with good reason, that Facebook's hurting their business. They perceive it as the enemy. And yet they don't perceive TikTok as the enemy because it's a bunch of videos. It's just a bunch of kids dancing and whatnot. So, by the way, the author of this Atlantic piece, which says, the headline again, 1 billion TikTok users understand what Congress doesn't. The video sharing app avoids scrutiny because politicians don't take it seriously. Evelyn, and then it says about the author, Evelyn Duick, a doctoral student at Harvard Law School. Oh, she's at Harvard Law. Is a senior research fellow at the Knight First Amendment Institute and Columbia University. Those are some fairly decent credentials right there. That's a smart lady, right? So, note, big tech over there, and the folks writing those New York Times articles, fanning the flames on the heat on Facebook of harming kids while kids are dying on TikTok. Not exactly Harvard Law fellows, right? Not exactly fellows at Columbia University over there writing those stories at the New York Times. Just for the record, because the Atlantic doesn't have an agenda, and they're pointing out the hypocrisy of their journalistic brethren who are missing the boat. And NPR did too. So kudos to the Atlantic and NPR both for showing the holes in the game of the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, who have become, what's the word I'm looking for? Activist journalists trying to take down Facebook. So here's some real journalism. Many people think of TikTok as a dance app, and although it is an app full of dancing, it's also a juggernaut experiencing astronomical growth. In July, TikTok, a short-form video sharing app powered by uncannily good recommendation algorithm and owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, became the only social media app other than those from Facebook ever to pass 3 billion downloads. And at the end of last month, TikTok announced it had more than 1 billion monthly users. It was, by some counts, the most downloaded app of 2020 and 2021. Not bad for an app launched in 2016. Of the social media platforms around today, TikTok is the likeliest to represent the future. Its user base is mostly young people. But if you look for TikTok in the news coverage, you're more likely to find it in the lifestyle, culture, or even food sections than you are on the front page, unlike Facebook. It's not that the social media platforms aren't newsworthy. Facebook constantly dominates headlines, but TikTok is all too often regarded as an unserious thing to write about. That's the mistake, and it's one that Congress is making as well. Recent Senate hearings, convened under the banner of protecting kids online, focused on the whistleblower revelations regarding what Facebook itself knows about how its products harm teens' mental health. That's an important question to ask, but if there's going to be a reckoning around social media's role in society, and in particular its effects on children, shouldn't lawmakers also talk about the platform teens are actually using?
Right.
Yeah, but Trump, I think Trump made that kind of a political hot button, right? So they're kind of avoiding it because I think if anybody sides with going after TikTok,
And TikTok is hotter with the kids than Instagram and others. I mean, this is the real deal.
The Wall Street Journal's Facebook Files report, after all, also showed that Facebook itself is terrified of young people abandoning its platforms, but didn't mention why. Because the Facebook's worried about them going to TikTok, but they failed to include that very critical point. To the users, Facebook just isn't cool. So TikTok is not a passing fad or a tiny startup in the social media space. It's a cultural powerhouse creating superstars out of unknown artists overnight. It's a career plan for young influencers and portable shopping mall full of products and brands. It's where many young people get their news and discuss politics, and sometimes they get rowdy. In June 2020, TikTok teens allegedly pranked then Donald Trump re-election campaign by overbooking tickets to a rally in Tesla, Oklahoma, and then never showing up, which led Trump to try and ban it. Anywho, the author makes great points and embarrasses the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and their friends in doing, and politicians who, by the way, let's recall again that the main charge from the whistleblower is that Facebook is putting profits over its users. And this is coming from that. Essentially, these accusations are really being thrown out from the media and the politicians who themselves are causing division and putting their own well-being and profits over the benefit of their own users. This is really utterly hypocritical what they're accusing Facebook of doing, of putting profits over users when they're dividing a nation, left and right and whatnot. And politicians are skilled in the art of doing exactly that and enriching themselves in the process. So it's a whole bunch of crazy hypocrisy, kabuki theater going on here. And I love the Atlantic and NPR and the real news organizations that are left to actually point these things out. So kudos to the author of that one. The next one is from Bloomberg. A look at something called PIX, P-I-X, a mobile payment system launched 11 months ago by Brazil's central bank and used in just the 11 months, less than a year, is now being used by at least half of Brazil's population. That's fantastic. And that's how fast it even happened. I would say faster than that in Thailand. I think Lakeisha would agree. In the first 12 months of COVID, more than half of Thais adopted the QR code prompt pay system. It seemed like, within a year, we were up to like 70-80% of people had switched over. And so it happens quickly.
Just looked up the stat on that, Tyler. 212 million, so like over 100 million in that period of time. Amazing.
You mean the population of Brazil?
Yeah.
Next up, from CoinDesk, London-based Elliptic, which helps analyze blockchain transactions, raises $60 million from SoftBank. And Wall Street Journal says Emerson Electric plans to merge two industrial software businesses from its automation unit with Aspen Technology in an $11 billion deal. Reddit hires Pally Bott, a former Google Cloud VP of Product and Design, as its first chief product officer. So I'd be curious to see what a chief product officer does at Reddit. They need a better mobile app, as everyone's using mobile these days. And the app's not bad, but it could be better. The next is from Fast Company, a profile of Jack Paulson, a former Google researcher who exposes tech company ties with the U.S. military as the head of the Tech Inquiry nonprofit. By the way, there's going to be a whole lot of that whistleblowing in the very near future. All of that whistleblowing activity that we have to look forward to, you're going to get a whole bunch of how the tech is being used by other partners and whatnot. And is
it going to be as much whistleblowing as a kind of techno rave in the early 90s, Tyler?
Yes, a Molly-filled Dublin warehouse on a Saturday night. Jack Paulson, is whistleblowing Google's military connections. By the way, every major tech company is working with the military. The military is the biggest customer anyone can have. By far. You think getting Amazon it would be a good client, or Walmart, or no, the military is a far, far better company than both of them combined. They are the biggest customer anyone can get. All the big tech companies work with the military. All of them. So when each of those team members at Apple, at Microsoft, at Google, at wherever, who think they got some hot story that they're going to tell the Wall Street Journal, guess what? I've got evidence that our company is doing secret shit with the Department of Defense. Guess what? Every tech company is working with the Department of Defense. All of them. Your hot little story means diddly bupkis. The Department of Defense is funding every company down to little startups. All of them. So, and any of them that have any potential use case. So we're going to get inundated with that story over and over from the Wall Street Journal. And the Wall Street Journal journalists themselves are going to be realizing, holy shit, my inbox is full of whistleblowers claiming that their tech company works with the Department of Defense. Yeah. And they have for a very long time.
An interesting guy on that would be the guy Prescott. Tyler, you familiar with the guy Prescott? He's
yes.
Got a military background. It'd be interesting to hear him open that up a little bit, just to give us some latest data points on it.
Okay, so the next one is, let's see here. Israeli startup Wiz, which helps companies identify cybersecurity threats across cloud networks, raises $250 million at a $6 billion valuation. Wow, Israel with a cybersecurity startup? Who would have guessed? Wow, only one every day. French startup Swile, which offers an app to manage employee benefits, raises $200 million from SoftBank at a $1 billion valuation. Another French startup, holy shit, two in one day, called Homa, Homa, which provides an SDK for indie game developers and studios to make and publish casual games, raises $50 million by my friends North Zone in Stockholm. MindMaze, which makes VR software to help patients regain motion after strokes or traumatic brain injuries, raises $125 million. And Brazil-based Favo, a social commerce startup focused on groceries, raises $26 million from Tiger Global. And Esper, a service that lets companies deploy and manage fleets of Android-based IoT devices, raises $60 million. And then the New York Times does a hit piece on El Salvador and their Bitcoin adoption, saying imposition of Bitcoin on El Salvador's unwilling population by the increasingly authoritarian ruler Bukele is testing Bitcoin's promise of financial liberty. Oh, it's just such bad clickbait headline writing.
Tyler?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
I did some research here.
Yeah.
On this
Oh,
wallet.
yes, on the wallet. Oh, you did. Oh, lady, hold on. Before you reveal this, this could be some hot shit, folks. Because May, who's a real crypto geek, jumped in our last meeting to let us know that it's possible that the crypto wallet that El Salvador is suggesting that its citizens use, it's called the Chivo Wallet. The government paid for its development, and they're also paying citizens to adopt it. You get $30 worth of Bitcoin just for signing up. And you're going to need this wallet because you're going to have to accept Bitcoin as a payment option from anybody. And once you accept the Bitcoin, you can convert it into hard cash through an ATM if you so want. However, what May found potentially is that because the state made the wallet that people are using, there's a common security issue in these kind of wallets, where the question is, some wallets allow you as the app owner to control the keys, the cryptographic keys, which the keys control everything. Think of the wallet as the house. Think of the keys as the keys to the house. If someone else has your keys, it ain't really your house. They control your house if they control the keys. Cryptography is the same way with these wallets. It's not a terrible metaphor in this case. You might have the wallet, the house, but if someone else is controlling the keys to the house and you don't have the keys, you're kind of fucked if they decide to lock the doors while you're away, or even if you're inside. So whoever that has led to the understanding, the simple truth that whoever controls the keys controls the Bitcoins. So the question that Amy proposed is it possible that El Salvador, in making this crypto wallet called the Chivo Wallet, that they're paying everybody to adopt $30 worth of Bitcoin to adopt it, who's controlling the keys to this wallet? It's rumored now that potentially El Salvador themselves are controlling the keys to these wallets. And if that's true, oh boy, that's going to be some breaking news in days to come. And we might be breaking it here. So May proposed this thought, and Craig apparently has done a little look into this. What have you found, Craig? Mr. Craig.
I'm here, sorry. There's going to be some background noise for that. So, the Chivo Wallet. It turns out, I thought, like many others, that this was produced by Jack Muller's startup, Strike Global.
Right.
But it turns out that it's produced by another Silicon Valley startup called BitGo, which is a unicorn in San Francisco. So the whole wallet, the infrastructure and security behind it, it's a white label solution by a very prominent, very well-established company that powers many other companies, Swissborg here in Europe. Regarding the keys, I guess to jump to the...
yes, the heart of the matter.
The heart of the matter. A lot of information, I don't have a clear answer, is a long story short. But I read the white paper, and BitGo offers a three-way multi-sig solution. So for those of you who are not familiar with how Bitcoin works, I know there are a lot of people here who do, but a multi-sig wallet is a wallet that gives multiple keys or multiple people the opportunity to sort of secure the transaction. And it looks like the user either has one or two of the three keys, like one private key and a backup private key, and then the service provider, BitGo, holds the other as a recovery key, and it takes two of three to do the transaction. So, long story short, it looks like they're good guys to me, from what I know today. And one other quick note, the $30 you get, you can't actually just go cash that in at the ATM. You got to spend it or transfer it to another wallet, then you can cash it in.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Greg.
Sure.
And
Tyler, I believe, is BitGo, and Craig could probably answer this one as well, but is BitGo the same organization or the same one that funded Brazil? Because there is,
I don't know.
there is a fund. And the name sounds awfully familiar. That's why I'm asking if it was also connected to Brazil in some way, because there is a financial unicorn out of Brazil that begins with the same, begins with the first three letters. So I'm just curious if it's the same one, if it's the same organization that brought it to life, basically.
I don't know, but you could probably look on the BitGo website and see some of their customers, probably not all of them.
But very interestingly enough, that multi-sig that Craig is talking about, it's the same thing. It's a bit like, I'm very familiar with Swissborg because I have some Dutch friends that got involved in Swissborg in 2018, and it was really funded quite fast. And Americans are not allowed into Swissborg for sure because they do heavy KYC and heavy AML. Unless you have actually a passport in Europe, they will come and find you and remove you from the platform, because I've had a bunch of friends that were removed actually early on in this year and end of last year. But with a multi-sig, and Ben could probably elaborate more on the multi-sig processes, but the long and short of it is, yes, the person needs to have the two keys, and the third key would be held by someone in case the person loses their keys to their house, right? The challenge here would be, maybe that's also why the citizens are a bit concerned, because they're trusting a third party that is basically, in essence, a centralized solution that's navigating with El Salvador to help them bring it to life. But as you also stated this morning in the first episode, Tyler, Chivo's been having some technical troubles as well, technical development troubles. So this is where it does lead. And I know Ben's probably going to, if he's there, he'll probably chime in his opinion and his thoughts. This is where it makes me very nervous, because there's too many hands in the pot. You know what I'm saying? When there are too many hands in the pot, then when a problem happens, no one wants to take responsibility who has so many hands in the pot, and it tends to fall on the impact of the people of the country. And this is where it gets really tricky, because as you've already stated earlier today, there are some technical difficulties with that Chivo wallet. Now that makes me a little bit concerned. Why? Because these technical developments, when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto, they have to be super, super secure. And if they're not super, super secure, and if there's any room for errors, it's not going to be a pretty sight. That's all I can say. It's not going to be a pretty sight.
Yes. For relevance, though, It has been far smoother than the major American rollout of healthcare that
Correct.
was known as the Affordable Care Act, because that was a
Correct.
dumpster fire.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. I do agree with you. I do agree with you. And pass the popcorn. I do agree with you.
One other final point, and that is that the Chivo Wallet is not required in El
Correct.
Salvador.
That's right.
So it's just required to get the $30.
Correct. You can use whatever crypto wallet you want to receive Bitcoin.
I was just gonna ask you guys, Emmy, especially, the Nigerian Inera was well, it's not really Bitcoin, but this is digital currency. But that was developed by, a Barbados-based fintech company, Bit Inc. BITT Inc. I don't know if you heard about that. So they were having also similar difficulties that they did launch it. Even a bit earlier than that they were planning to launch it on October 1st, but they were having difficulties like rolling it out on the website and the stuff. So just
Messi, I think the main thing that I would say, Messi and Tyler, which I like doing, sort of going down a little bit the rabbit hole, but not so far. What I'd probably say is, from a critical thinking perspective, I would look at the impact of what's happening now and just think about it going forward. And while you're doing that, look at the Pandora Papers at the same time. And when Messi, you mentioned Barbados, I mean, come on, we're all very familiar with offshore Barbados, Grand Cayman, Isle of Man. We're all very familiar what goes on in a lot of those regions. Just think about the complexity of how you're now. What I'm getting a sense is that like they're whoever is in those sectors is trying to navigate it in a traditional fintech sort of way. I'm using the words very loosely, but it can't, because it's also very transparent. So, could there be a future version of the Pandora Papers, but with crypto, because people think they can't be found or they can't be traced? So I'm just kind of putting it out there, because when you mention Barbados, the first thing that thinks to my head is like, wow, offshore accounts, and when we start looking at stuff like that, I start leaning towards what's happened with the Panama Papers and the Pandora Papers, like what's actually
actually.
coming out. So that's it.
Exactly,
That's my thought.
that's what I have been asking you all the time. If you remember, like I asked you, I have no full understanding of this Bitcoin, but Pandora Papers,
correct.
all those things. I always worry if this corrupt not just Africans. There are many that, as we saw.
There's many ways. There are many types of cats like that. There are many cats like that.
Right.
But the part, Messi, that's very fascinating, and not to cut you off, but the part that's very, very fascinating is I do see where you're coming from. But the one unique part about that, many of these individuals, maybe because they're coming from a legacy type of finance and banking background, they fail to realize maybe that this is all traceable. I mean, this is all public, transparent information on the blockchain, which means anyone could just hire Chainalysis in Singapore and they will be caught. It's that simple. It may even be caught faster, as we've seen with these ransomware hacks. It may even be caught faster than if they used cash for their nefarious dealings. Do you see why I'm looking at the positive possibility that people could be caught sooner than later? If that's clear, Messi. Do you see what I'm saying? They could be caught sooner than later, because people are assuming that this is not traceable, but it is.
Okay. I hope so, because
it's
the last thing we want to do,
traceability is a fact. You could ask them.
Yeah, and the last thing anyone could do, especially having all these amazing initiatives, and especially even how they are pushing the blockchain and then the cryptocurrencies and others being decentralized, and that or especially even getting the unbanked and all the good things. But then the last thing you need is also giving opportunities for then the, how do I put it politely, the bad actors or the corrupt and everything, to have opportunities to be able to stash all those money that cannot be traced. It's not that they have been traced and returned at all. I mean, there hasn't been any time that all those billions have been returned, but at least knowing about it is a good thing, and the transparency will be a good thing.
Tyler, I
Yeah.
have a question for
Yep.
you about
So
this topic because
Okay.
I think you could shed a different perspective very quickly.
Okay.
What about Soros and Rothschilds and the Roosevelts
It
and all
was
those
just,
people that
I
are
just read the headline
jumping in?
yesterday that Soros has quite a
Yeah.
bit in Bitcoin now.
And Senator Loomis, hello, Senator Loomis, has come clean as well. They're all coming clean that they have Bitcoin. It's very interesting how like everyone was denying they have it, and all of a sudden now everyone's like the dominoes are falling, and everyone's saying, "Oh yeah, I've got some. Oh yeah, I've got some." It's really fascinating because clearly they're understanding the technology more and more and more to realize they cannot hide that they have it. So it will be very interesting to watch this whole new innovative way of engaging unfold and to keep an eye on it.
So, quick point about the app. Common practice is for the source code for wallets to be, posted on GitHub, or at least somewhere that everybody can look at it and see whether or not it's compromised or there's a backdoor. So even if a respected firm, created one and put a white label on it, if you don't see the source, you don't know that there aren't other modifications to it, and it's
Correct.
basically blind trust.
Yeah, I mean, because
Correct.
it's if they're posting it open source, that's just the source. They're not posting what they've compiled, so they can compile other things.
You can verify that for yourself, though, if you want to take the time.
But if they're
Thanks, Ben.
not posting the source, then it's really blind faith.
Correct.
But this is also a hot wallet, so you're just going to use it for daily spending, and there's some sort of limit. I don't know what the limit is. You don't use it.
I'll let Ben comment on the hot wallet topic.
I've only just come in, so I'm missing the context. But yeah, I mean, unless you're
Well, you know
invoking a
hot
hardware,
wallets, Ben. You know
yeah,
hot
yeah.
wallets.
Well, basically, unless you're invoking a hardware device to secure your Bitcoin, then and this hardware device can be anywhere but from the size of your thumb to a full size of a mobile. But it is not a mobile. If it's the size of a mobile, it just looks like one. Unless you're invoking a dedicated hardware device whose sole function is to secure Bitcoin, then you're in a situation where your money is about as safe as cash in your pocket as you walk through a city. So it's convenient and cool to carry it that way, but you're going to get mugged for it sometime. So yeah, you have to use hardware to secure your Bitcoin with today's technology. If you've got more than a few $100s worth, would be the guideline.
Would this eliminate the situation that Stefan Thomas in San Francisco encountered when he lost his 7,002 Bitcoin? That's worth like $250 million today.
I don't know. I don't know the circumstances around that. There's
Well,
lots
he
of ways you
forgot
can lose your Bitcoin.
It's real simple. He forgot his password. So would this give a safety net to a situation like that?
That's different. So that you use hardware to make sure that your keys aren't ever anywhere that anyone else can get access to. Backing up is a whole different matter. The best practice for backing up is putting a master key or seed phrase on paper, or better on metal, and storing that somewhere. And then there are layers of security you can add on top of that. But the reason to go from a hot wallet, which means a wallet running on a computer or a smartphone or any general purpose computer, over to a hardware device, is that a computer or a mobile phone are just too complex. There's too many hundreds of millions of lines of code in there to be sure that there's not some exploit hiding away in there. It's just too complex. So you need something that keeps your keys offline in a simple device.
Craig, to dovetail to add to what Ben just said, if I understood your question correctly, the gentleman in San Francisco who lost his password, are you asking the question that the multi-sig would have possibly prevented that from happening, or at least he would have been able to recover it? Is that what you're
Correct.
asking?
Correct, Ami. Yep.
If it's a multi-sig, yes, but I do agree with Ben where it becomes the hardware wallet is super powerful and the most secure. But if you're someone that's, let's say, a billionaire or someone that wants someone else to manage it for them, and you've got that type of revenue or capital at your disposal and in your portfolio, then yes, you may consider multi-sig, where the multi-sig is helping you keep it secure because you have two keys and the multi-sig holder has the third, right? So if this gentleman would have lost one of them, he would have been able to prove his identity to the multi-sig provider. And someone who does this in the United States, for those that are based in the United States, I met them when I was at the Bitcoin conference super fascinating group out of Austin, Texas, I believe. It's called Unchained Capital, and they do this with Bitcoin right now. And they're an amazing young team, really cool startup. I met them when I was in Bitcoin conference. I was impressed by what they're doing. So Chag, if you take a look at Unchained Capital in the US, they are doing exactly that, where they're doing multi-sig for people, but all they're doing is being the custodial of one of those keys. So if something happens, you could go to them and they'll identify you. Or like if you God forbid die or something and your family has to go, they'll identify whatever it is that you put in the paper, and then they will confirm who you are and your identity, and then they will release accordingly.
Yeah, that's sorry, I dropped out, but that's how this works. You can have a recovery system. You put in, first of all, it's KYC. And Ben, if you didn't hear, we're talking about El Salvador. I know you probably know more than anybody in this area about this, but you go through KYC. You need to put in a telephone number. If that can be in multiple countries, you need to put in, your details and take a picture of your ID. And if you lose and then you need to put in a PIN number. I think a 6-digit PIN, and that helps encrypt your private keys. So if you lose your key, you can go back to the service and it will recover for you. But I think you have to have your password, I believe.
Okay.
So I
Evan.
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How is that different than having your cold storage wallet and then storing your keys on a piece of metal or, a couple of different
So
places?
I've just moved it to this club, Tyler. But in 1 hour exactly, I'm happen to be running a session on multi-sig security. So maybe
Perfect.
if people want to deep dive, join me in 1 hour on this club.
Perfect.
And we'll talk about it in some detail, so people don't get off
Okay,
the
thank you.
rails. For
And
those who don't get
we
bottom line.
will wrap here in 1 hour and go right over to that. So where Ben will do the real deep dive on that. Thanks for
Awesome.
that. Perfect. And then in the meantime, Evan, you just found a really interesting headline about Facebook launching a new audio hub.
Yeah, they're going after spaces, clubhouse, podcasting, I guess everything audio related. I'm curious, has anyone tried the beta of this Facebook audio platform? I haven't looked into it yet.
I just tweeted the link, which shows 4 photos of it, and it looks like a Spotify built into Facebook is what it looks like. But it's a mix of music and live audio rooms, podcasts, short form audio. The company says it's also making its Clubhouse rival, called Live Audio Rooms, more broadly available to global users, and is beginning to roll out a new product called Soundbites, a sort of TikTok for audio, offering short audio clips. I'm sure that'll be wildly successful. And
It's interesting to watch how many of their users can they attract. I mean, it's going to be big, right? But how big?
I've just audio clips. These are famous last words. Like that just sounds like the stupidest idea I've ever heard. So maybe I'm that out of touch that that could actually work.
2 billion users, they're going to find someone to use
Yeah,
it.
I will happily eat my shoe if that goes through. But and it seems like their version of Clubhouse doesn't really seem to be doing much of anything. Again, potentially famous last words, but listening to podcasts, I could see that working in Facebook. Yeah, so they're adding all kinds of audio features to Facebook under an audio tab. It actually looks like it's part of the video tab at the bottom of your phone already, in the menu bar at the bottom of your phone screen, where you choose between the communities and notifications and videos. When you go to videos, there will now include podcasts and these audio clips and their version of Clubhouse. Okay.
So on this point, the interest, I mean, they, like everybody else in social media, are probably going for, the largest number of users. I think we on Clubhouse have had the experience of seeing what a smaller but higher value network offers. both in terms of higher brow content and in terms of not having to come across a lot of nonsense. And it would just be really interesting if somebody could focus on that variation of it to recreate what we had, which of course would require, some sort of different monetization model.
Speak for yourself, Eli. I come here for the fart jokes.
Okay, next up is from... Well, now we actually get to get into the tweets, by the way, which is the good part that we were all patiently waiting for now that we've gotten through the big, boring headlines. And the first one out of the gate is that a retailer out of Spain called Desigual, or Desigual. It's kind of like a hip kids version of, a new kind of Urban Outfitters, I would say. A Europeanish version of Urban Outfitters based in Spain. Their workers vote in favor of a 6.5% pay cut in exchange for a 4-day work week. There you go. And the next one from Saudamini sends in this one from CNET that astronomers have spotted the first planet that they've ever found, which is orbiting 3 stars. So it will have triple sunsets. You get a sunset every few hours. That's kind of my brain has a hard time
All right,
even.
Tyler. I take back those comments about the 2 suns that they made a couple months ago.
The next one, also from Sudamini from USA Today. Texas abortion...
So, Tyler, just briefly,
yes, Ben.
sorry to interrupt.
No
It took
problem.
a while to get to the mute button. Most star systems are at least binary and more than 1 star. So we're unusual to have a single sun, just as a FYI. More of them out there are dual or triple.
Yes, lots of dual suns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And including in Star Wars. Tatooine notably had a dual suns. The next one is from USA Today. The headline says, Texas abortion law critics. So people who don't like the new Texas abortion law are targeting these corporate donors and Texas-based companies. The Democratic Party is targeting companies like AT&T, based in Dallas, Time Warner, and NBC for their role in supporting Republican sponsors of the Texas abortion bill. It's going to get hot. Foes of Texas abortion ban are taking aim at companies that donated money to the bill's sponsors, hoping consumers will pressure corporate America to join the fight against the surge of restrictions. As if America wasn't polarized enough. Here it comes, and I'm not opposing this, but it's just this endless escalation of polarization is getting a little intense. But I did say when this Texas bill came to pass, it would be interesting to see who kind of rises up to challenge it within tech. Doesn't seem anyone in tech really has risen up in opposition of it, but Democrats are, and they're basically going to try and do a little bit of canceling, take a little cancel culture on these corporates that had donated to the lawmakers who passed the bill. So if you're a corporate company who had donated campaign money to the lawmakers who passed the bill, you're not directly sponsoring the bill, but you're donating to the lawmakers who are making a bill that you don't like, hence you don't like that lawmaker. Now they're basically these Texas's. Let me read it. Texas's ban is the strictest in the nation and allows private citizens to sue individuals. The top consumer and tech companies in the state of Texas have stayed noticeably silent. Yep, that's what I just said about the new legislation, and some have been targeted by reproductive rights activists for donating to the lawmakers who passed the bill. Television and digital ads launched this past week by the Democratic Party's opposition research arm called the Corporate Accountability Action and American Bridge 21st Century, highlighting AT&T, Time Warner, and NBC Universal's contributions to Texas Republican lawmakers. So, the Democrats are trying to get their political, the people on the other side of the aisle, the Republicans in Texas, to get the companies who are funding them to stop funding them because they're making bills that they don't like. This is the political version of cancel culture, where you now have Democratic lawmakers trying to intimidate the corporate sponsors of Republican politicians to stop funding those Republican politicians, and using an issue like abortion as the cancel lever, because make no mistake, those companies that I just named have a lot of users. They have customers. They're customer-based companies, right? And the Democrats.
This is an echo. This is an echo of the Domino Pizza boycott from like the late '80s.
It's also got a little bit of Chick-fil-A in there, but the idea is that the Democrat, if these companies don't play game, then the Democrats will go to their base and say, "Hey, where do we assume this goes?" The next logical step is, "Hey, Democrats, are you a Democrat? Great. Did you know that the company that you use for your phone, AT&T, is giving your money to Texan Republicans who made this abortion bill? Maybe you should go with Verizon." So you now this is really quite interesting. This could turn into a huge corporate political mud pit where you have the two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. And Dr. Francine Hardaway just joined us just in time. Perfect. Francine, what did you hear the headline?
I did.
What do you
And
make of this?
well, there have been a lot of boycotts before,
Yep.
and some of them have worked and some of them haven't.
Right.
What this one will do is keep the issue front and center, and as it should be, because this is ridiculous. But most of people who are on AT&T do not have the time or the energy to go find out what Verizon and T-Mobile think to see if they should really switch. I think this is more kind of a news thing, but it does raise the "I donate to both parties" strategy of most large corporates, because you're going to find that most of them are on both sides of most issues just to cover their bases.
Right. This is a
I
great.
think this is going to lead. I think this is going to lead to no donations by corporates.
Well, it should, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a really interesting strategy to politicize corporate donors.
Well, I hate to talk about it, but they do this with the NRA in the United States too. Like, if the NRA does any business with any company, they try to cancel the company. And right or wrong, that's the tactic that they're using.
Yeah,
Wait, Chris, does this mean we can cancel Russia?
I think we tried that. AT&T said in a statement it does not take a position on the issue of abortion or endorse the law known as Senate Bill 8, and gave money to
Of course it doesn't.
right.
Of
But
course it doesn't. It just gives CYA money to people pro and con in the way that it gives it to Democrats and Republicans.
I mean, the issue is AT&T. I know them well out of Dallas, Texas. They're traditionally a very pro-Republican kind of organization. The management, the hierarchy, they're
yeah,
whereas you take a T-Mobile, they were typically out of Seattle, kind of more left-leaning. So this is par for the course for AT&T.
Well, if John Ledger was still the head of T-Mobile, he'd be telling everybody to switch to T-Mobile and giving away service as a lure, and then it could work.
But that's where it could get really interesting, couldn't it? Where you could potentially get red and blue big services of all kinds. And how far does it go? Down to fucking shaving cream?
Perhaps, but that's what's wrong with America right now. Don't get me started.
Are you buying Republican toilet paper or Democrat toilet paper? We need to know.
I have a bidet.
I use corn
You mean
cobs.
you mean Tyler? You mean the one with their face on?
No, I mean,
Yeah,
this
Trump
concept, if
toilet paper.
taken to the nth degree, means you're going to end up choosing. We're going to politicize every company in America as being either for or against, certain
It's
issues.
like that dumbass Freedom Phone they tried to market as a alternative that was full of bugs and made in China.
But
Okay.
they've tried this. They've tried this with like Chick-fil-A that Tyler mentioned, as well as Hobby Lobby, and under Trump they had Goya Foods. It's these boycotts. Like, I think Dr. Francine nailed it. It'll keep it in the front page of the news, but it's not gonna. They don't really resolve in driving these companies' revenues down. It seems like these guys end up thriving after
Unless you're My
all said
Pillow,
and done.
I think his business was hit pretty hard.
Which one?
The My Pillow guy, the pillow guy.
Yeah, that Mike Landez or whatever.
That guy really took the ball and ran with it. So the next one is from Jeff G. from CNN, that the FBI sting operation nets a couple accused of trying to sell nuclear submarine secrets. Following a year-long operation by undercover FBI agents, a Maryland couple has been arrested and charged with attempts to sell U.S. nuclear secrets.
They're doing drops in between peanut butter and jelly sandwiches of SD cards.
Following the two other countries in exchange for cryptocurrencies. The U.S. Navy nuclear engineer Jonathan Toby, who held a top secret security clearance, and his wife Diana were arrested Saturday in West Virginia by FBI and Naval Criminal Investigative Service after the couple allegedly sold information concerning the design of nuclear-powered U.S. warships to a person they believed was a representative of a foreign power but was actually an undercover FBI agent, according to the Department of Justice statement. The Washington Post first reported on the alleged Espionage Act. The Justice Department said that Toby had access to information on a naval, nuclear propulsion, and sensitive military design elements, including operating parameters and performance characteristics of the reactors for nuclear-powered warships. An FBI agent in a criminal complaint justifying the arrest alleges Toby first sent a package to the foreign government in April 2020 offering to sell the nuclear secrets, and an undercover FBI agent responded several months later via an encrypted email program and corresponded with him. The agent worked on gaining Toby's trust before he allegedly agreed to sell the information for thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency, according to the complaint. According to the complaint, the FBI conducted an operation in Washington, D.C. area that involved placing a signal at a location associated with the foreign government in an attempted effort to gain bona fides with Alice, the name Toby used as an alias when penning his emails. During what Toby believes to be a dead drop or a hiding spot spies used to secretly pass information, the FBI said it arrested Jonathan and Diana on Saturday after Jonathan placed yet another SD card with classified information at a prearranged location in West Virginia. The couple has been charged with violations of the Atomic Energy Act, which provides or prohibits anyone with access to classified information from sharing that information. The complaint claims that Tobias attempted to communicate, transmit, and disclose the same to another person with the intent to injure the United States and to secure an advantage to a foreign nation. It is unclear whether the couple has retained legal counsel yet. In one trust-building move during the lengthy correspondence, the FBI arranged to deliver a signal to Toby for a building that houses the unnamed country's diplomats. After gaining Toby's trust, the agent tried to convince Toby to meet in person, but Toby was worried about being caught. The agent suggested using a dead drop at a location of his choosing. In March 2021, Toby allegedly wrote, "I am concerned that using a dead drop location your friend prepares makes me very vulnerable. If other interested parties are observing the location, I will be unable to detect them." That's right, Toby. Look at the big brain
like
on
being
Toby.
Surrounded by the FBI? Yes.
Toby also said he was worried about receiving cash payments because serial numbers can be traced, and he worried tracking devices and other nasty surprises must be considered as well. Look at the big brain on Toby.
Smart guy.
On April
No, not
2021,
smart enough.
Toby allegedly wrote, "Is there some physical signal you can make that proves your identity to me? I can plan to visit Washington, D.C. over Memorial Day weekend. I would just be another tourist in the crowd. Perhaps you could fly a signal flag on your roof. Something easily
Like
observable from,
smoke.
but nothing to arouse
I watch
adversaries or
I've
suspicion."
many movies.
The undercover agent replied, "We will set a signal from our main building observable from the street. It will bring you comfort with signal on display from area inside our property that we control and not an adversary. If you agree, please acknowledge." Toby instead allegedly suggested using the decentralized cryptocurrency Monero because it gives both us excellent deniability. And Toby's not aware that every device is totally hackable, obviously.
And you fucking wrote it in words, you idiot.
This guy needs to read a few more spy novels.
Well, he's going to have time in prison.
He's got
How's the
plenty of
wife
time to
going
read
to
every
know?
spy novel and figure out where he fucked up.
Maybe they can sentence them together in prison so they can be together for 20 years.
Tyler,
yes.
that's nuts.
I know. In an email cited in the complaint, Toby allegedly said he would deliver the SD card containing several hundred pages of technical data. Once he confirmed a receipt of the cryptocurrency, Toby allegedly wrote, "I will give you the passphrase." Oh, you're so clever, Toby.
I'd like to see this guy in an extramarital relationship.
how long he could keep it going. Toby,
it sounds like Falcon and the Snowman, the movie.
Whatever you do, don't tell my wife I'm banging this chick over here.
Toby also allegedly told the agent he would never use the same drop location twice. "I will give you a new Monero address each time. The decryption key will be different each time. No patterns for third parties to observe."
The FBI.
Like the email you sent just now, dumbass.
Like we keep using the same email every time. The only electronic footprints will be proton to proton, so there's less risk of encrypted traffic being collected for future analysis by third parties. That part is not perfect. Perhaps our friendship develops as we change addresses periodically, he asks. And in June 2021, Toby and his wife traveled to West Virginia, where the FBI said Toby placed an SD card concealed with half a peanut butter sandwich at a prearranged dead drop location.
Half, because if it was half eaten, you'd never think anything was hidden in there, right?
I have
Sure
a
it
nut
wasn't
allergy.
tuna?
I don't think I'd be a good spy.
Is it an SD card or an STD card?
It's SD. After
STD card?
Yeah, STD card, Chris, after his extramarital affairs.
After receiving the SD card, the undercover agent sent Toby $20,000 cryptocurrency payment, and Toby responded with the description key for the card, according to the complaint. The FBI said it opened and provided SD card and provided the contents. Now, if you listen to these quotes of how the FBI is responding to Toby, you notice they're using the same poor grammar that is indicative of one particular country who might have an interest in this information. The FBI said that it opened the provided SD card and provided the contents. And the other previous quote also has a distinctly Slavic, I even would say Russian grammar to the correspondence, like intentionally bad English. They were using Russian-like English that they used in corresponding. So while they're not naming the country, things point to at least Eastern Europe.
So there was a Twitter thread analyzing this,
Yes.
and part of the story is that one of the countries that was contacted actually, reported it to the United States, and there was speculation on which country that was. The leading candidate was France, and Brazil was mentioned as a second possibility.
I heard that he tried to swallow the evidence, but it got stuck to the roof of his mouth.
The other choosy spies choose Jif.
Tyler, can you check the hand
Sure,
raise?
1 second. To the U.S. Navy matters of
Tyler,
had
when
been
are you going to do the tech news around the world open mic comedy night? Because I really think you got a bunch of people in here that could be some
I'm
firsthand
just
comedians.
imagining the FBI communicating with this guy, just laughing their asses off every time he sends in a message.
Bro,
So the language.
believe me, I know tech more than anybody, bro. These are the things we must follow so I can maintain anonymity, bro.
In that thread, the language or the English usage suggested possibly India, but that was discounted for some other reason.
The FBI said Toby allegedly carried on the relationship with the undercover agent, making another dead drop in Eastern Virginia in August 2021, where the FBI had him under surveillance as he left his house in Annapolis, Maryland, and drove to the dead drop. The complaint said the FBI observed Jonathan Toby service a dead drop in Eastern Virginia. The FBI observed Jonathan Toby place an item in the container and remove a written message placed in the container by the FBI. The FBI subsequently opened the SD card and provided the contents to the U.S. Navy subject matter expert. The U.S. Navy subject matter expert determined that multiple documents on the SD card contained restricted data. Specifically, the U.S. Navy subject matter expert determined that the document contained schematic designs for the Virginia-class submarine. The Virginia-class submarines are nuclear-powered cruise missile fast attack submarines, which incorporate the latest in stealth, intelligence gathering, and weapon systems technology, the criminal complaint alleged. In another exchange listed in the complaint, Toby explained how he obtained all of the classified information, saying, "I was extremely careful to gather the files I possess slowly and naturally in the routine of my job so nobody would suspect my plan." So we received
That's just
training.
wrong, by the way. I hope they throw the book at him.
We received training on warning signs to spot insider threats. We made very sure not to display even a single one. I do not believe any of my former colleagues would suspect me if there is a future investigation. He also said, "I have considered the possible need to leave on short notice. Should that ever become necessary, I will be forever grateful for your help extracting me and my family. I surmise the first step would be unannounced travel to a safe third country with plans to meet your colleagues. We have passports and cash set aside for this purpose," he said. He hoped such a move would never prove necessary. Toby said
it's like a reverse Nigerian prince scam.
Toby said he hoped that one day to meet and have drinks with his foreign handler, writing unwittingly to the FBI agent, "Thank you for your partnership as well, my friend. One day, when it is safe, perhaps two old friends will have a chance to stumble into each other at a cafe, share a bottle of wine, and laugh over stories of their shared exploits. A fine thought, but I agree that our mutual need for security may make that impossible. Whenever we meet or not, I will always remember your bravery in serving your country and your commitment to helping me."
Right now, I would settle for
Unbelievable.
my peanut butter sandwich.
So this person was an American that wrote all that?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Jonathan Toby. Jonathan. Mr. Toby. Can I call you John? John? A better move is to go leave the item somewhere without telling them where you're going to leave it. And then contact them and then let them know where you left it. That would just be just the starters. That's just starters. Don't get me started. I don't want to take the next 30 minutes explaining how you could have potentially done this in a thoughtful way. But I love how he thought he was doing it in such a thoughtful way. That's the part that kills me.
The summary, Tyler, is what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive.
What a story.
As an amateur relying on spy novels.
I mean, he didn't even read your basic spy. Basic spy novel would cover more than stuff than that. It's just crazy. Okay, so the next one, what do we got? We got 30 minutes. Here we go. AstraZeneca drug cocktail succeeds in late stage study on COVID-19, reduced the risk of developing severe COVID or death by 50% in patients who had been symptomatic for 7 days or less, meeting the main goal of the trial. So now Merck, who had a similar new treatment with a 50% similar success rate. So now we've got two. AstraZeneca's experimental COVID antibody drug cocktail succeeded in reducing severe disease or death in patients in late stage, up to 7 days. The question is, how much does it cost? It's the ivermectin you've been waiting for, everybody.
So there was a meme about sticking it to big pharma by passing up the $20 vaccination and taking the $10,000 antibody treatment.
That'll teach them.
I'll show you, Big Pharma.
Poning the big pharma. Then after the New York Times headline, after coming in from Cal Patel, after the whistleblower goes public, Facebook tries calming employees. Employees are divided at Facebook. A former product manager who testified that the company was putting profit before safety. Apparently, internally, Facebook's trying to calm everybody down, which makes sense because their friends and family think they work at a bad company, and now they're embarrassed, and a lot of people might be resigning, and that would be tragedy. That could be, as I said from the very beginning, the real cost of all of this. So Jeff Bezos shared an old article on Twitter, and Elon Musk replied. And the old article, the headline of the article says, Amazon.bomb. The story predicted that Amazon's stock price would come crashing down and that the real winners of the internet boom would be firms that sell their own products directly. Dismissing Amazon founder Jeff Bezos as just another middleman, the story read. The idea that Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos has pioneered a new business paradigm is silly. And that article didn't age very well, so Jeff shared it on Twitter just a few hours ago. And
there was actually one of those business review things of that business students do as they're working on their MBAs that reviewed his pitch deck for Amazon, and they basically ripped him a new one.
But Elon Musk replied to Jeff's tweet with nothing other than a little silver medal. Number 2, it says.
It's brilliant.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Shots fired. And the next one, yeah, go ahead.
These two guys, I just see them two. They're like a bunch of kids, aren't they? Always fighting between each other. It's all comical, really.
The next one is from Jeff G. from CNBC. The headline reads, China presses U.S. to cancel tariffs in test of bilateral engagement. The virtual talks between U.S. trade representatives Catherine Tai and China's Vice Premier Liu He, following Tai's announcement on Monday that she would seek frank talks and hold China to its commitments under a Phase 1 trade deal negotiated by former President Donald Trump. The Chinese side negotiated over the cancellation of tariffs and sanctions and clarified its position on China's economic development model and industrial policies. China's Xinhua state news agency said after the talks held on Friday, Washington time, China said on Saturday, it pressed the U.S. to eliminate tariffs in talks between the country's top trade officials that Washington saw as a test of bilateral engagement between the world's biggest economies. The virtual talks happened on Monday. The Chinese side negotiated over the cancellation of tariffs and sanctions and clarified. Okay. The U.S. intended to use the call, the second between the two, to test whether bilateral engagement can address U.S. complaints about Beijing's trade and subsidies practices. Xinhua said the two sides expressed their core concerns and agreed to resolve each other's reasonable concerns through consultation. Both sides agreed to continue communicating with an equal approach and mutual respect and create the conditions for a healthy development of economic and trade relations between the two countries and the recovery of the world economy. In a briefing ahead of the call, a senior U.S. trade official said that the U.S. would give China an assessment of China's performance in implementing the Phase 1 deal, including promised purchases of U.S. goods that are failing short of targets. So she would raise concern of China's non-market economic practices. And essentially, to simplify this whole article, China's begging to take things back to normal and asking for a remove of these tariffs, which America's not likely to do, and it's really starting to hurt China. And China's starting to panic in the aftermath of the Evergrande economy scenario, and the realization that the Western world has united against it, and now they're shitting themselves. But
yeah, it's not good to piss off your customers. I mean, we're massive consumers, customers of China. All our crap is made in China, basically.
Yeah,
and we're pissed off.
We decided to bring you into this world, and we could take you out. We let you make our stuff, and now we don't want you to, because
and we also realized how badly they could negatively affect us right during COVID.
Well, how they would weaponize it against us, and that's why the Western world has woken up and realized we don't like playing football with you no more. We're taking our ball. We're gonna go play somewhere else, and you can play ball with whoever decides to stay and play with you. Have fun. And they're
actually, that's not something that necessarily scares them, simply because they've decided that they want to focus on their own consumer markets, among other things.
Yeah. The supply chain shortage in the short term is quite a problem, as Evan just sent in this article from Daily Mail UK. Series of supply chain bottlenecks create everything shortage. The goods exist, but backlogs at shipping yards and rail yards across the country, combined with a lack of workers, means the items aren't being offloaded quickly. And so there's a whole bunch of empty shelves everywhere.
I mean, anecdotally, I have some family who are doing a huge IKEA purchase for a new house. And IKEA's, if you know them, they're traditionally like supply chain gurus. I mean, they're the best. And, half the stuff wasn't available. Stuff that was online wasn't in stock. Stuff that was in stock was missing parts. This is one of the biggest IKEAs in Boston. Just a disaster. I just can imagine every other company going through the same thing.
It's not a supply chain, it's a supply web that's interweaved in such a way that, one part of the web being gone actually affects the entire supply web.
Sure. I mean, with the chip shortage is going to even impact CES. We'll see less companies showcasing anything in January. So I think this holiday season we'll see a rise in digital gifts being given, such as entertainment, Netflix, online movies, video game items in video games, and of course the one that I'm fascinated by. We're going to see a lot of NFTs being given as gifts.
Jeremiah, as usual, looking over the horizon there. The next one's from Jeff G. That the AC-130J gunship's first solid-state laser weapon has arrived for testing. The laser system could offer the already super versatile U.S. warplane AC-130J a new way to covertly destroy and disable critical targets. And why?
Freaking lasers.
frickin' laser beams. And similarly, the next one from Sudamini from the Hindustan Times says a solar storm havoc. 3 times Earth has hit and damage it caused. The solar storm generated by our sun is dangerous is quite apparent from the destruction it has actually caused here on Earth on a number of occasions. So we know of 3 times previously when a solar flare has wiped out a lot of stuff, and if it happens and it's gonna happen at some point, the question is when, and when it does, how much of our now new technical stuff will it wipe out? So it's a growing concern. So thank you for that one.
The thing is here that we will have a couple of minutes in warning and a couple of days to actually brace ourselves for the impact. The thing is that we will see it after 8 minutes when it occurred.
Right.
But the wave will take an additional day or more to hit the Earth. So probably we might get a global alert about shut everything off, unplug everything, because we will be hit in 22 hours. Because that's the time one of these waves actually will or can hit us. So, and the
You
impact will
forgot to
be
check the
different
hand
on the different
raise.
sides of the planet. The face of the planet that face the sun when the wave hit us will have a lot worse than us on the other side.
Okay. So next up is from Sundamini, that from Economic Times of India, that investors line up for cloud kitchens, online food delivery brands. A cloud kitchen backed by serial entrepreneur Ganesh has raised $15 million, and last week a whole bunch of cloud kitchens are starting to boom in India. So here comes the cloud kitchen boom of India. Rebel Foods, among the largest cloud kitchens in India, became a unicorn as it raised $175 million at its latest round of a $1.4 billion valuation. Big, whole bunch of cloud kitchens all popping up in India now. Oh boy, there's a graph going back to 2016 until 2025. It's an absolute explosion of cloud kitchen activity in India. Okay, next up is a teacher accused of sharing obscene material with students via Snapchat. Deputies say, which I guess that means they're arrested. Let's see. How dumb is this person? Oh, looking at the photo, he's pretty dumb. North Carolina teacher accused of sharing obscene material with students via Snapchat. And the arrest photo kind of says it all. A teacher at a North Carolina high school has been arrested for inappropriate contact with students online. Santos Alejandro Valladares, 28, was charged Wednesday with 2 counts of disseminating obscenities and 3 counts of disseminating obscenities to a minor. He is a teacher at Weddington High School. The arrest comes after an extensive investigation by the USCO with the assistance of the Union County Public Schools Administration. The investigation first began after UCPS staff said they received information that Valladares was having inappropriate contact with students online. They said Valladares initiated and maintained contact with numerous students via Snapchat in which he shared obscene material. Deputies said Valladares is still employed by UCPS and would be subjected to their standard disciplinary procedures. UCPS said that the teacher has worked with the school district since 2017 and has been on administrative leave. Here's the quote. Our investigators, along with UCPS administrative staff, came together to identify and arrest a perpetrator that sought to exploit the children of our community. We will remain vigilant in our effort to curb any activity related to sexual exploitation. I encourage parents to speak with their children and teenagers about the dangers of social media applications and to monitor their accounts to ensure safety. The end of article. But if you look at the article I tweeted, there is no question that he regrets. Just looking at his arrest photo, that is the look of regret. My Lord. Wow. Okay, next up is from Poppy. Advanced navigation launches a company called Advanced Navigation, which calls itself the leading AI navigation systems manufacturer for enterprise and government, today announced the release of something they call a cloud ground control to monitor and control drone fleets from a web browser over 5G or over any.
I'm sorry to laugh, Tyler. I just looked up that picture. It is very, very
I told you.
lots and lots of regret.
A little bit of regret in that photo. Just a touch of regret in that photo. But the idea of controlling swarms of drones through web browsers just brings us one step closer to an inevitable web drone attacks, drone swarm attacks done through web browsers.
Via exploits where some state actor takes control of people's computers.
Could do. That would make it all the more crazy. And Poppy found this one, that Rome like a war zone today as massive protests rock the city in the past few hours as Italy's Green Pass system mandating vaccines use is to go online October 15th. People may lose their job if they refuse to submit to the jab in Italy. And so now Rome is turning into a war zone. And you can see the video. I just tweeted it out. And then CNBC reporting that the first Berlin Teslas could come next month. Elon Musk tells fans at the big Tesla Berlin party that was going on all weekend, where they turned the new Tesla Berlin factory into a fair with a Ferris wheel and DJs and food and all the fun stuff. And he did a little Q&A on stage where Elon Musk told fans in Berlin that the first cars for its new Berlin factory could roll off the production line as early as next month. And Soondamini sends in this one from India Express that Facebook is willing to open algorithms to regulators, Nick Clegg has said. Facebook's chief spokesperson said the company is willing to subject itself to greater oversight to ensure its algorithms are performing as intended. Looks like they're willing to play ball. And then the next one's from CNBC, that Facebook's outage has people rethinking how they make money online. Does it really? Or are you just trying to jump on the dumpster fire here? CNBC says influencers who long relied on Instagram and Facebook to connect with users, advertise, and sell products are rethinking where they post content after Monday's outage. Oh, really? Show me that. CNBC spoke with 10 creators and small business owners who use a combination of Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, and said losses range from a few $100s to at least $5,000. The outage comes as Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg push investments in content creation to woo influencers from the likes of TikTok. Okay, so CNBC spoke with 10 online creators and small business owners. Each of their estimated losses, as previously stated, it's a demonstration of how big Facebook's influence is over the online economy. Even a small outage means losses for people who rely on Facebook services to do their work or advertise their products. Yes. Okay, so you interviewed 10 people. Okay. Doing some big research over there at CNBC. And the next one from Poppy, also about Facebook. The new face of autocracy. Frances Haugen's testimony was a smokescreen for the real problem, according to Newsweek, that a handful of mega firms are now controlling content for much of the population.
Wow.
No way, Tyler.
So
That's like,
surprising.
wow. This is like an epiphany.
Newsweek's really hitting hard these days. And, well, they're my God, do they have the strongest firewall I've ever seen. But I just retweeted the article for those who might be able to get into that one. And then Pixel Pass is Google's rumored response to Apple One. It's appeared ahead of October. So the October 19th Pixel 6 launch event is coming. And the rumors are coming in that there's something called Pixel Pass, which will be similar to Apple One, which will get you all kinds of features as a menu of features rolled into one called Pixel Pass, although it's not entirely clear what's in the Pixel Pass. It says in the article, Pixel Pass appears to be combine elements of Apple's iPhone upgrade program, which offers an iPhone via monthly subscription payments alongside extended warranty, and its Apple One subscription services bundle. Pixel Pass could be pitched as a way to simplify access to all these services, as well as offering the peace of mind of an extended warranty. Pixel Pass might also offer a discount compared to paying for these services individually. There you go. Pixel Pass is coming. They'll announce it at the event next Tuesday. And a drug treatment for Lyme disease could lead to its eradication. The tick-borne illness that is becoming more common in many countries could be eradicated using a drug that kills the diseases. Let's hope so. So now malaria and Lyme disease could disappear in the next year, as there's now also a newly approved vaccine for malaria. Sweet Jesus, we're going to get rid of all the diseases.
Thanks, Bill Gates.
In the case of malaria, that's absolutely true.
Yep.
And Cheryl sends in a video of a wall printing machine that's quite genius looking. And then elephants could inspire the robots of the future. A robotic arm inspired by an elephant's trunk. It doesn't exist yet, but it's the subject of an unlikely Swiss-Italian scientific collaboration. So just tweeted that out. And MIT establishes a new initiative to meld humans and machines. A new MIT research center aims to merge humanity with tech, like brain-computer interfaces, robotic limbs, in order to treat and erase physical abnormalities and challenges. Yep, they're working on that.
So there are many positive things there to help people out, but also there be dragons.
Southwest Airline cancels more than 1,000 flights over the weekend. Hundreds of flights over the week. And blaming the woes on air traffic control issues and weather. Okay. United States has lost AI battle to China, Pentagon's ex-software chief says. The U.S. has already lost the AI battle to China, which is heading towards global dominance, according to the Pentagon's ex-software chief, who says, he tells the Financial Times, China, the world's second largest economy, is likely to dominate many of the key emerging technologies, particularly AI, synthetic biology, and genetics, within a decade or so, according to Western intelligence assessments. Nicholas Chalian, the Pentagon's first chief software officer who resigned in protest against the slow pace of technological transformation in the U.S. military, said the failure to respond was putting the U.S. at risk. Here's the quote. We have no competing fighting chance against China in 15 to 20 years. Right now, it's already a done deal. It is already over, in my opinion, he told the newspaper. Whether it takes a war or not is kind of anecdotal. China was set to dominate the future of the world, controlling everything from media narratives to geopolitics, he says. Chalian blamed sluggish innovation, the reluctance of U.S. companies such as Google to work with the state on AI, and extensive ethical debates over technology. Google was not immediately available for comment outside business hours. China's companies, Chalian says, were obliged to work with the government and were making massive investment in AI without regard to ethics. He said U.S. cyber defenses in some government departments were at kindergarten level. Chalian announced his resignation at the beginning of September, saying military officials were repeatedly put in charge of cyber initiatives for which they lacked experience. A spokesperson for the Department of the Air Force said Frank Kendall, Secretary of the U.S. Air Force, had discussed with Jalen his recommendations for the department's future software development following his resignation and thanked him for his contributions. And a real-life Squid Game to be held in the United Arab Emirates. Think you could win Squid Game? Viewers in Abu Dhabi are about to get their own chance to compete in green light, red light, etc. I guess that means something to people who have seen the show.
Is this going to be real, like real, like the real thing, where people can get killed?
So many people are saying to watch that. We should just do like a group watch or something,
We
man.
could do a
It's
group
an
watch.
awesome show. It's an awesome show. My wife's Korean, and it's based on childhood games that they played, but it's with human beings. And yeah, like the other talker just said, it's death is really the only way out.
So there's BB's found an interesting headline and observation from South China Morning Post that Meituan is one of the biggest tech companies in the world, one of the very biggest in China, and their main game is delivery. And Meituan they've been in the headlines lately because they received like $1 billion fine for anti-competition, for being a monopoly. And they became a monopoly because if you are a business and you want to use Meituan's delivery system, they made you do an exclusive. So you could not use any of their competitors. And so they've had this new $1 billion fine. The new headline today says that Meituan's founder, named Wang Jing, locks down social media posts. That move was apparently made weeks before the government closed its antitrust investigation of Meituan. I'm sorry, so which was fined $533 million, but I believe there was two very large fines. But interesting that he's had locked down his posts from public view of his posts just prior to the fines. And then what do we got next here? We covered Evan's article about Facebook Music. Twitter and TikTok embrace NFTs. Mainstream adoption coming soon is the question. Social media giants embrace NFTs, very notably TikTok and Twitter were sort of the first two big ones. And NFTs could be the start of a new reputation system used in an increasingly digital world, which is true. That could get super interesting with social media with NFTs. And Canadian private security companies have wreaked havoc in Afghanistan, according to our Canadian friend Heyman. In the record of the disastrous war in Afghanistan, little attention has been made to the horrific role of Canada's private security firms, is the headline that Heyman shared. And I just tweeted to the Tech News Twitter account.
Those evil Canadians.
I told you. Google to give security keys to high-risk users targeted by government hackers. The physical keys, like all of their staff have been using now for a while, by YubiKey, a company out of Stockholm. And YubiKey is going to explode as everyone realizes the only way to protect all these devices is to have physical keys. And now Google's being very generous in giving out 10,000 keys to high-risk users. Potentially 20,000 because their own website says you should have two. You should always have a backup. And if they're giving them to 10,000 high-risk users and their own website says you should have two, maybe they're giving out 20,000 keys to 10,000 high-risk individuals. Pretty cool. And then Ken found this one from the information that Epic Games may make Fortnite movie as part of entertainment expansion. Epic Games is considering launching an entertainment division focused on scripted video programming, said people familiar with the situation. So could Fortnite turn into a new movie series? And this speaks to the headlines that we've read regularly in the past few weeks about how Netflix is getting into video games, and now video games are getting into movies. Do you see where this is going? The The movie companies are getting into video games, and the video game companies are getting into movies. They're going to merge head on. Those two are going to become more and more alike as the technology platforms enable that.
When we're in the metaverse, we're going to need it, right? Everything's going to be some kind of interactive entertainment system. So it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
That will translate well into Netflix's stock.
What else do we got here?
Tyler, I'm going to disappear off and start this multi-sig security room. So
okay.
you'll see.
Yep, we've got just 3 left to go. Here we go. There's a profile of Altos Labs, Silicon Valley's latest wild bet on living forever, from Heyman. Solar desalinization device will provide clean water to 400,000 Kenyans. Just tweeted that one out. A Chinese company is building a colossal 16-megawatt offshore wind turbine. That's a one hell of a turbine. Holy Christ. 16-megawatt wind turbine. You need a lot of wind to turn that. And your driver's license could soon live on your phone, from the Washington Post. And that, my friends, let me refresh. Let's see. I see a little. There could be more. There could be more. There's one more. Canadian David Card among Nobel Prize winners for economics. Pioneering research.
Not all Canadians are evil.
For pioneering research on the labor market impacts of minimum wage and immigration. Well done. We got through all the tweets just in time. Our friend Ben, who just opened the Bitcoin security room. So we will see you over there, everybody.